Joining us live is Tess of FMCG Consults. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
What is your interpretation of this giant retail outlet considering exit from Nigeria?
I mean, it's been a long way coming. Today it's Shoprite, tomorrow it might be another company. But it's been a long way coming if you've been following closely what has been happening within the retail space. 2019, the second half of it, Shoprite also reported about 8.1% loss in sale across the supermarkets in this country. So I guess it's been a long way coming, so to speak.
And what does this say about the ease of doing business as it affects fast-moving consumer goods in Nigeria?
And that's another ball game all by itself, because if you look at since December 2005, when Shoprite opened their first store here in Lagos, up until now, where they have close to about 28 stores across 8 states in this country, including the Federal Capital Territory. It then means that for a medium-sized or even the large-scale, fast-moving consumer goods company, once they launch a product, for them to be able to get visibility, Shoprite most often provides that for them, because then Shoprite has the footfall, which is what they're looking for, which is the consumer eyeball. Shoprite has the spread, which is the number of outlets that they have cut across different states in this country, including the 6 commercially viable states that we have in this country for fast-moving consumer goods. So in a large way, I think that if this exit goes through, this would impact not only the fast-moving consumer goods business owners, but also experiential companies, especially marketing communication companies, where, you know, when there's a need for product activation and stuff like that, if you have an agreement with Shoprite, then you're sure that you're already in 8 states and that you get a lot of consumer base. So it would have a negative and definitely positive outlook if you measure it in the long run.
Okay, and I also want to ask your thoughts on, a lot of people believe largest economy in Africa, 200 million, plus, with regards to our population. How come that doesn't translate to higher sales and better profit for these companies who, flood the Nigerian market?
Right. So although we have 200 million people in our population today, but if you look at the population grid, which is the triangle, and you divide that into 3, you see that in the upper class, we have about 15 million people sitting there. In the middle class, we have about 98 million people sitting there. And then in the bottom of the pyramid, that's the people who are like under $1, in fact, have 50 cents a day, we have about 108 million people sitting there. So a lot of people forget that of the 200 million people that we have in this country today, more than half of them, or more than half of us, are actually living below the dollar. What that means then is that the consumer spending power is actually limited. And so there are so many things fighting for the consumer share of pocket. So imagine this consumer within this bracket of the lower part of the economy, or the lower part of the pyramid, which sits about 108 people. From this same pocket, he has to feed. From this same pocket, he has to communicate in terms of buy recharge card and all of that. In this same pocket, he has to pay school fees from this same pocket. So you'll find that certain items become a luxury when you're now dealing, if you are now looking at it from a population point of view. So yes, we have 200 plus million people sitting in this economy today, or sitting in this country today. But in terms of disposable income and in terms of spending power, how much can the majority, which is like 50% plus, actually spend on this
would you say, just a yes or no, would you say that has become worse in the last few years?
Oh, definitely, yes, it has become worse. Okay. And not to even mention the pandemic and the new economy, so to speak. Now it's going down. It's a slide more. It's sliding. It's nose diving right now.
I want to also talk about, of course, from the expectations of a lot of people, are excited about local investors coming in to take over that market. So what is the implication of the country's FDI on this development? And should this be seen as an advantage to local investors to jump in?
Okay, so in terms of foreign direct investments, this, of course, signals a red flag in many ways because a lot of companies see the success of some of these South African brands in Nigeria as a leveraging point or as a hinge point for them to be able to come in. But on the back of that is the issue that they also see because these guys talk to each other at that level. And so the issues of currency devaluation, the issues of the irregularity in the supply chain, the issue of the lowering consumer spend. When you put these three together, it doesn't really make our landscape, our economic landscape now, a very, very viable, should I say, opportunity or a viable outlook for anyone. But let's not also forget that Shoprite, particularly in their value proposition, one of the things they sold to the consumer is low prices on your everyday essential. And so for their business model, perhaps because they were going, for the low pricing just to be able to stay competitive in the market. Perhaps now with local competition and local brands, supermarket retails coming up now, the competition is becoming too steep. And don't forget that in a market like Nigeria that we are in, that relationship